Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents The Corner Bookstore, hosted by Red O'Loughlin. Step into a world where every story inspires. These pages come to life through the voices of authors from around the globe. Written by our global community of TV show hosts and best-selling authors, these works span genres, generations, and geographies, united by the power of storytelling. Discover your next favorite book and meet the minds behind the work. Thursdays, only on USA Global TV and Radio.
Howdy y'all, Red O'Loughlin here. Today is Thursday, which means 3 shows for me on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. The first one today is The Corner Bookstore. And before I start, let me just give you a very brief background check on me. I spend a lot of time every week researching the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem, treat symptoms, and you'll always be treating symptoms. Some of my books are shown behind me here on the screen. But I specialize in longevity and age-related diseases. Those are the 2 things that kind of ignited a spark in me. When I'm not doing that, I help people get their books written. I publish probably 50 books for other people. And I speak every week, usually on some aspect of health and wellness. Last couple weeks, I talked about publishing. Today, later on in a couple hours on the Talking Heads show here on the USA Global TV and Radio Network, I'll be talking about making your speeches, how to give your speech like a pro, essentially. And we'll talk about those little nuances that improve your speaking ability and what connects with the audience. But that's enough about me. Let's get now to our star of our show today, Kay Sparling. Kay, please join me up here on stage. Kay is
Good morning. Yes.
Good morning. Kay is an international opera singer. She is a writer. She is a lot of things. And she just had a new book come out called Mission Thaw. And we're going to talk about her experience as an author and how that book came about. And then based on that book, as I understand it, there's several other offshoots that we want to cover that are passionate with our guest today. So Kay, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I've been a professional singer since actually I was 7 years old. I was discovered at a small county fair competition, and it just happened that a scout was there for a big production here in the Midwest of Sound of Music, and they ended up giving me the role of Gretel, the smallest Von Trapp. And so I literally started getting paid to sing when I was 7. And the Broadway musical and the sacred singing, meaning I sang at churches a lot, church music, uh, just continued all through high school. Then I went to college, and even though I was very successful, and I thought I'd be wanting a Broadway career to continue for a long time, um, my focus kind of changed because my parents said, well, you can't just get a performance degree because we don't know how long this would really work out for you. You must have something to fall back on. And so I got a music education degree as well. So after that, um, my voice career kept going, and then I got rather bored. So I started singing jazz. I was in the Kansas City area, and I sang jazz for a while. And one night I was singing at the Vista Hotel, and a lady approached me, and she was a professor at the conservatory there, and said, I've been watching you for a long time, in your undergrad years, and now that you're out, and you really, really should think about studying opera. And I wasn't too interested at the time, but believe it or not, about 3 months later, I was teaching at a big high school in Kansas. I decided, I might want to go back and try that. And so that's what I did. And the reasons I did it is because it was much more vocal challenging than Broadway for me. And I like that idea. And I love the idea of international travel if I were to be so lucky as to make an international singer. So that became my new goal. So I quit teaching and I went back to school and went to graduate school. And during graduate school, I was very fortunate to be introduced to some grants that would allow me to finish my master's in opera in Europe. And so in 1987, I went on 2 different grants, and I ended up at the Vienna State Opera in Vienna. And they decided that even though I had taken a lot of language, particularly Italian and German, because that was the operas I was singing, both in undergrad and grad school, they said, well, we'd like to send you early, and we'd like you to go over and take a Goethe Institute German course, because they'd really love you to be able to speak like a native, not just sing like one, but be able to go give lectures and that kind of thing. And well, I wasn't too crazy about that idea, but they were the boss, so off I went. And during that time, that preliminary time before my apprenticeship, a lot of weird things started happening around me, and I was noticing that there was a lot going on in Austria that we weren't hearing about in the United States in the news or in the newspapers. One thing is that their prime minister at that moment was Kurt Waldheim, and he had actually won on what you might call the neo-Nazi ticket. And as I was learning Vienna, I would see certain areas that were very policed, like completely around. Vienna is in what they call rings. And if you go out further, I would go out and, discover things, when I had free time. I noticed all this policing. And finally I asked, someone that was a native, and they said, oh, that's the Jewish district. And they need guarded. And so I was opening my eyes to the present situation. And one thing that an apprentice doesn't get a lot of is money. I mean, they'll give you room and board, and you're learning from the greatest conductors and singers in the world, but it pays nothing. So you have to have those subsidizes because, those mentors, because absolutely you're going to be in New York City, Vienna, Milano, somewhere, where you're going to need a lot of money. And so you need a lot of backup. And so one thing I would do is I would go sing at the cathedrals because, the opera wasn't open on Sundays. And so that allowed me a little bit of pocket change and, some more, more exposure, exposing, this new singer in Austria and that kind of thing. So I was singing at one of the major Duomos there, and a few priests approached me and they told me a story. And they said that they had a really bad situation outside of Vienna. There was a huge refuge camp. And these refugees were from all the satellite countries that the USSR had released recently. So just to name some of them were Hungary and Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, Romania, etc. And when the USSR could not hold up the economy with all these, okay, well, you're on your own now. And they would leave these countries with no infrastructure, to the point no people had jobs. A good example is Bratislava had been at one time such a beautiful city. It was called the second Paris of Europe. But when USSR took it over, all that stopped, of course, and it became the main manufacturing town or city for manufacturing tanks. Well, when they pulled out, all these big factories, they were just sitting there, with nothing to do. All these people lost their jobs. And I was staying in a 5-star hotel I was lucky if I had electricity and water on the same day. And food was in a great shortage. All these cities, wherever you went, Prague, Budapest, it didn't matter. And so what did these people do? But
we got a lot to talk about today, and we're going to talk about some of these things, but we need to get back onto the schedule for the show today, okay?
Okay.
I said we have a lot to talk about today, and what you're talking about is absolutely important, but we're on the corner bookstore, so let's talk about your book to start with, okay?
Yeah. So this book
had a book come out called Mission Thaw, is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
And Mission Thaw is
how long did it take you to write it?
It took me quite a while because I was working full time, 7 days a week. But I started in 2015, came out of a PTS project, a journal, and I was encouraged to write it as a book. So I started in 2015, and 5 drafts later, I had the book come out in August of last year, in 2024. So it took me a while to write the book.
How long did it take you to get it edited?
Editing wasn't really a problem by the time that I handed it in, because I had been hiring editors throughout those 5 drafts. Different people would help me, authors, teachers, that kind of thing. So when I actually handed it into the publisher, it was pretty darn clean. She was amazed. Yeah. So that part went fast as far as the final editing.
So you had developmental editors to keep your plot, your time, your characters, all those things in there. And then you also have the final edit for grammar and diction and spelling and all that. So,
and content. Yeah. So this book is actually all true facts. It's just, it was fictionalized to protect people. So names in some locations will be changed. And so, being an opera singer all my life, I had no background in writing a novel. So I found it very hard because I was, I didn't know how to write action, and I didn't know how to write a thriller. So a lot of it had to keep being shed until it really moved. And my last editors before I turned it into the publisher, where I was taking a master class from James Patterson, and the TAs taught me how to write action, short chapters, and always leave a cliffhanger. And once I honed it down, then it really moved. And you could literally see the book as a movie, which is what I aspire it to be.
So when you were writing and you got the feedback from the edits, do you have enough skill now to write a sequel or another book in the same vein? What did you learn from the edits that came back? Because that seems to be one of the areas that a lot of the authors, wow, I learned so much from my editor. What did you learn from your editors?
I learned that to make conversation go, you need to have tags, before a line that the character will say. And those are particular in the genre that I'm writing. Like a CIA director is going to have different tags than a housewife in another story. You see what I mean? So I had to make those specific to keep that excitement going, and like, what are they going to say now? And so I learned to do that. And I also learned to condense what they had to say. If they were given an order, it's going to be a lot more exciting and movie-like if we condense that, what the director says or what the chief says, and so, watch how wordy you get, in this genre. Just always be very, very, very aware that you're writing action. And that's pretty easy for me. I wish someone would have told me that in drafts 1, 2, 3, and 4, because I'm an actor and I actually have done some film in my earlier life. So therefore, that made sense to me when they said, write it like it's a screen script.
Interesting, because Steve McQueen, I was reading one of his autobiographies way back when, and he was a big proponent of facial and body language as opposed to speaking. And he would have a sheet of his, whatever was that particular scene. And sometimes he would just act the whole thing based on the expressions of his body language, and particularly his face, in order to convey back to the other person rather than say something. Because sometimes those are much stronger answers. And that's hard to do in a book when you're trying to describe a facial feature or twitch here, there, and yonder, or eye intensity or something.
Yeah. One thing that I did for each of the main characters on the CIA team and the MI6 team is I had them have little quirks. Like one guy was sort of his cover was a history professor, and he was a language expert. He knew every dialect of German in Germany or in Austria. I mean, he was fantastic genius, but he was always pushing up his glasses, And so, and then the main male protagonist is an MI6, and he's the director of the whole mission. And he's also Caitlin Stewart's, the opera singer, that turned spy, her trainer, and he goes through this whole mission with her. And when he gets really upset, he keeps raking his fingers through his hair. If he does that, something bad's coming up.
Okay.
And he's worried.
When you started writing, you get the draft done, the editing was done. Let's talk a brief moment about your cover. And then in about a minute or so, we're going to go to a commercial break. When we get back, I want to talk about marketing your book. So how did you get the cover for your book done? And were you really happy with it?
So the publisher that I worked with, they talk to you, they consult with you a long time about your vision of the cover, and then they hire someone to design it, and then they send 3 different ones to you, and you get to pick the one that you like, and you can also edit the one you like a little bit. I like this one because, it has that color of Cold War, cold, the blue, the ice. It's Caitlin up against, she's got her back up against the whole Vienna skyline. And I love the jagged underneath the thaw of the ice that's actually melting, because this mission at the end brings down the Berlin Wall. Okay. And, very soon the Cold War is over. And that's why I named it Thaw as well. Okay,
we're going to go to a quick commercial break. When we come back, I'd like to start talking to you about when did you start marketing the book, and how did you market the book? So when we come back, that'll be our primary focus right after the break. So
okay,
take care.
In a world craving connection, one platform dared to dream bigger. USA Global TV and Radio, a beacon for global voices, authentic storytelling, and elevated listening. Led by visionary Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the journey from a spark to a global force is now captured in one inspiring book. Honored with YouTube's Silver Creator Award for surpassing 100,000 subscribers, discover the evolution, the challenges, the triumphs, and the unstoppable spirit that created a global movement. Executive producer Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, music score by Yeffy Tang, creative director Paul Garcia. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited. Now an Amazon #1 new release in paperback and ebook. Broadcasting Brilliance, the evolution of USA Global TV and Radio, is inspiring readers around the world. Join the movement that's redefining global media one story at a time.
Howdy, y'all. Red O'Loughlin here. We're on the Corner Bookstore in the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And our guest today is Kay Sparling, an opera singer, author, international traveler, speaker of many languages. Anyway, she's joining me today, and we're talking about her book, Mission Thaw. And we're talking about a few other things in addition to that. But let's get back to Kay. Please join me up here, and let's talk about when did you start marketing your book, and how did you market it?
The first thing I did before I knew the book was going to be released in August is I hired an assistant, a young person much younger than me that really knows social media. And so she set up every account for me. I had not heard of some of them, but she knew of them. And so that was the first thing we did. And then because I'm a musician and I do have a studio at home, we were able to do like small ads, video ads and that kind of thing. And so we immediately started putting those on, and just, she made her ads and she would just have a rotation and she would put them on these social media. And then of course we were buying ads on Amazon because that's one of the major sellers I have. And so that was attracting sales. But after about 4 months, I realized that, after reading a couple books on marketing, I did not have the time or the expertise to do that. So I took I went to a virtual conference for women in publishing that happens every year. And I watched all the marketing presentations. And there was one that really stood out to me. And I said, I want to contact this woman and I want to talk to her about hiring her for Mission Thaw. And so I consulted with her, and she had her publicist there with her. And they explained what they did, and I liked it. And I contracted them to start marketing the book. And since that time, I've been busy. I've been on very many podcasts, a lot of blogs, a lot of magazine interviews, newspaper interviews, a couple TV shows, and it seems to be working. I think it's very interesting that traditional publishing did not think that an opera singing spy would ever sell. And the first thing that really proved that was wrong was the editorial reviews from the professionals. I've gotten great scores and great comments. They love the book. And, the traditional publishing people should have thought out of the box better, because, an opera singer is a great cover for a spy. And it's sorry that they didn't believe that was believable when it's actually true, But hey, here we are, and still got the book published, and
Do you have an audiobook or plans for one?
I do have plans for one, yes. And I'm hoping by the end of this year that will happen. One of the things is that being an actor, I looked into producing that myself, just because I thought I could be the best reader of my book. I knew the languages. I know the difference between a Dutch English accent, someone Dutch that's speaking English and someone German or someone Austrian. I know the difference between a Scottish accent and a high British accent. So I think I could do very well with that. But when I really investigated it, I'd have to clone myself to get that done. So right now my publisher has certain equity actors, that I'm listening to. And believe it or not, it was on one podcast, a really good idea of who I might want. After he talked to me, he's like, hey, I know someone here in New York. So I'm supposed to be meeting with her soon. So hopefully we'll find someone, because maybe I'm being a little picky, but I want the right person to read my book,
Do you use any AI at all in the process of writing your book?
Absolutely not. In fact, I'm so illiterate of that. I didn't even know that was possible until someone asked me that question the other day in a written interview, like, did you use AI to, and I was like, no. But the only AI that came my way is, during I wanted to do some kind of like comic book strips with Caitlin Stewart. And so I was, I hired an artist, local here to do it, because she's trying to be a graphic artist and have her own comic strips. And so I think they're called graphic novels now, if I remember. But and so I was doing it, and then my publishers were like, "Oh, that's good," and then they were sending me this AI stuff, and it was a little bit more intense illustration, but like the gown would be off, or they have the wrong era gun she was holding or something, and I wasn't impressed. And AI, I don't think is the way that my book was done either. If it was, they didn't tell me.
Okay, one of the topics you wanted to talk about today was women in the CIA.
Mhm.
Why?
Well, because this is not just a spy thriller. This is a feminist spy thriller. Caitlin Stewart in 1987 gets recruited by the CIA once she gets over to Austria. And, unbeknown to her, she's the only woman in the field, period, at that time. So she's a super, super glass ceiling breaker. And she doesn't find that out until like 2 decades later. She just assumed there were other women out there. They weren't in that theater, right? In working in that mission. And then she's promoted and she's way up. And one time she goes to a retirement party of one of her chiefs, and she says, how many were, back then when I got recruited, how many women were working in the field? And he says, none. And she's just stunned because she didn't know that, and so, not only does she have to prove herself that she can be a spy once she accepts the mission and gets recruited, that she also has to deal with all these men who don't think she belongs there. And the big one is that lead MI6 director of the mission. He just wants her to take her ball gowns and go home. I mean, he doesn't think she can survive the mission. And so she has to prove that she can. She has to prove herself all the time.
Now, you said this was based on true facts, just change the names to protect the innocent. How did you get access to all this insider information?
Well, so I told you where I was during the time of this mission, and I went to these refugee camps because I was asked by the priest. And make a long story short, I got sucked into the whole thing of helping these refugees, and I met a lot of spies, and I even dated one. So there you go. It's what I was told and what I witnessed, and then what I went back and researched and interviewed them again. So.
Okay, so they gave you a business card that says 006. And so you knew they were a spy.
No, that's not how it works. No, they come to you because they need favors from you. And through time, relationships are developed, and one can assume that they're not what they say they are. And, once they trust you, they'll open up, especially if they need something from you.
Now, when you have your plot set up and you were actually there during that time. So you saw, you're talking about the refugee situation over there. You're talking about, uh, I guess, probably just the overall aura of the leftover, the Cold War in Hungary and
Mhm.
Romania and places. Uh, I was over there after the Berlin Wall fell, and just looking at both sides of the wall, it's interesting to see what kind of lifestyle people had and imagining what the other lifestyle was at. And you take a train, you see these old World War II trains sitting there off on the track somewhere, and it just conjures up all sorts of images. So I can imagine you're back there during that time, and not only is it there, but it's probably there in more than black and white. It is there in full color.
Absolutely. And I was in the GDR, which I'm going to explain. A lot of people don't understand that was East Germany at the time, GDR. And it was the best way I can explain it is even on the sunniest day, it seemed gray. Everything was gray. It, you know, things were in really bad shape. So the premises, very quickly, is that once these refugees came, Austria did not want them at all. They wanted them to leave. So some dirty businessmen that were Western there decided they would hook up with the East Germans and the KGB that was in East Germany and say, hey, figure out a way to get these people out of here. And what they figured out is that they were in a very bad economic way, just like the USSR. So they thought if they could human traffic these people to East Germany, they could put them in the same kind of camps that were in World War II. Send the old people and the kids back to the camp, let somebody worry about them. And they would either take people for workers, and once they got there, they would not take care of them. If you tried to leave, you were executed. And so, and then the women were put into underground brothels or sold to individual East German men. So sex slaves. And so Caitlin really gets driven by going through this dangerous mission because of the things she sees happen, particularly to the women and little refugees through this trafficking system, this cartel. And if the MI6 and the CIA can get enough proof that this is happening, these slave auctions, once they take them away, they stop in some alpine mountain village and have these auctions. Halfway between the West and East Germany. If we can prove that, and then NATO, Geneva Convention, everybody will be on the same page, and they'll shut it down, and then that's going to bring down the wall because that will be their last economic slam that they can handle.
When you were over there, did you have access to any of the concentration camps that were left over?
Absolutely. So my father he was a young man. He went through the whole World War II, and then he decided to sign up after the war. And one of his assignments was to go clean up Dachau, outside of Munich. And he took pictures when he got there. And they helped relocate people, and then they had to do the mass burials and such. So when I was 7, he got me out these pictures, and he showed me of what he witnessed. Now, this is why I'm telling you this, is because my mom got really mad. And why are you showing her these things? And he said, I'm showing all the kids these because if I don't show them in their lifetime, people will say this never happened. Skid to where I'm over in Austria, and I go to a party, and I think it's just a party, and it ends up being a lot of neo-Nazis, and they're all convincing me that the Holocaust did not happen, and that the memorials like Dachau are just to keep the German people down. So he was right. And yeah.
We're getting here toward the end of the show. I'd like to have you tell people how they can get your book. How can they get in touch with you?
Yes. One of the easiest ways to do it is to go to my my website. It's very extensive, ksparlingbooks.com. There you can read about the book, you can see editorials, you can see all the podcast links I've done, all my social media links, you know, magazine reviews. And one special thing I want you to do is go and check out the song it's a theme song, because I'm hoping this turns into some kind of film or series. And I actually have a theme song, which is a little different than most authors. But there's just pages and pages. And it also has all the links where you can buy my book as well. So that is the best way to do it. And like I say, if you're really into social media, all the links she has there under media. So I think that's the best place to go.
So you'd prefer to have people contact you by social media?
Or they can contact me right through there. They can email me.
Okay.
There's a spot for comments or questions or anything like that. So if you want to contact me, yes, you can do it through that website.
Okay, this is a live TV show, but we do have broadcasts that are done afterwards in audio. So for our audio audience, ksparlingbooks.com is K-A-Y, Sparling, S-P-A-R-L-I-N-G, books, B-O-O-K-S.com. So it's ksparlingbooks.com. And all of her contact information is there. Her links to the different bookstores that you can buy her books, her social media sites. Everything is there. So, Kay, is one last comment. Do you have anything you want to wrap up with real quickly? Give me 30 seconds.
Well, thank you for having me. And, please be aware that there are 21 million people today being human trafficked. And so if you have any idea that may be going on around you, please contact the authorities.
Thank you so very much, Kay. I really and truly appreciate it. And good luck with your book sales and good luck with your marketing program. Sounds like it's in a very competent position right now, and all you have to do is respond and not do all the planning. So that's always a good place to be.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
So take care, Kay. Retta Laughlin here. We have another author coming up here very shortly, and she's an author of many books, but she's also in the medical and health field, set up a lot of clinics and things over in Africa. And so that's going to be on my next show called The Wise Ones. Cece Robinson's her name. And we'll be talking with her very shortly, probably in about 20 minutes. And then right after that show, my Talking Heads program is coming up, and I'll be talking about speaking. How do you become literally a professional speaker? And it's like anything else. You usually judge things by the number of times you do. Well, for most people to become an expert, they say 10,000 hours. But in reality, maybe sometimes because of your inherent skills and talents, you can become an expert in 500 or 5,000 or 2,000 hours. But speaking is something that we always do. But sometimes we let that little bit of fear of being up in front of an audience somehow challenge us to thinking, I can't do it. But in reality, you could do it to two people in front of you. So we'll be talking about speaking today. What are some of the little tricks of the trade? What are some of the things that you can do to change literally overnight? And because we have this video camera that allows us to videotape ourselves, watch it over and over and over again, that's almost the ability to say, okay, let me do 10 video recordings today and critique them, have my friends critique them. Lots and lots of options on that we just have the technology today. You just hold up a little phone in front of you and boom, you have a whole video studio right at your disposal. So anyway, we're going to conclude the Corner Bookstore today. Thank you very much for joining me. We're on every Thursday, 11 a.m. Central Time, followed at 12 noon, The Wise Ones, and then followed immediately thereafter with Talking Heads. So I will catch you all next Thursday. Take care. Bye now.
From the magical world of the amazing adventures of Lady Ella comes a heartwarming new journey filled with kindness, courage, and compassion. Lady Ella, the beloved ladybug and listening mentor, is back, and this time she is not alone. Meet her brave and thoughtful brother, Lord Jack. Together, they take flight on their very first kindness adventure. Along the way, they meet 3 new friends in need: a duck feeling discouraged, a mouse struggling to be understood, and a busy little bee who's completely lost. But with the power of elevated listening and simple acts of kindness, Lady Ella and Lord Jack show us how understanding and empathy can make the biggest difference in someone's day. Written by Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the listening mentor, this 9th book in the best-selling Lady Ella series teaches children ages 5 to 10 the essential skills of listening, kindness, and etiquette. Now available for pre-order on Amazon. Scan the QR code and order your copy today.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dies. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.